screen sharing. Sorry, it's not letting me screen share.
Hello, y'all. Chris, are you good?
It's not letting me screen share. I have the button, but it's not letting me use it.
Let me see if I can do something on my end. Give me 1 second.
As we're working out the technical, good morning. This is Edward Pollard, and I'm the program director for STAR California, but my home base is Mira Costa College in San Diego County. There we go. Appreciate all of you being here. Thank you, Jessica, for sponsoring our webinar today. And of course, our friends at Link Systems and partners, Vinny Forese and Chris Bergeron. I'd like to, I'm excited that we have a total of 38 participants, which is great because it's January 19th coming off the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. And we have an inauguration this Wednesday, so we're squeezing this in at the same time. This is great attendance. Today will be, besides talking about STAR, we'll also have an overview that Vinny will do, the STAR California overview. We will also do a esteemed tutor panel. We have 3 tutors who have worked in STAR California and are from their respective campuses. They'll introduce themselves when we get to that. And then also we'll have how to join STAR California once we wrap up. So with that, I'd like to give it back to Jessica Hurtado, who has a CVC update. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So again, my name is Jessica Hurtado, and I'm the program supervisor for student experience with the California Virtual Campus Online Education Initiative. You can find our website at cvc.edu. So today I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of background. So for those of you who may be the directors or coordinators of your online tutoring services, I just wanted to give a overall update in regards to what is CVC doing right now, what are we supporting, what type of resources, changes to our resources and all of that. So just quickly, again, just to give you a reminder, NetTutor for online tutoring services. Again, this is a particular resource where we are bringing in private tutors. Our colleagues at LSI will hire tutors to provide this service. So again, these are private tutors who are providing services to our students at the college, online tutoring services. And so for that reason, if you're not familiar with CVC-OEI, prior to COVID-19, we are focused, and we're a grant that's really dedicated to helping fully resource distance education programs for our CCCs. And we started with a consortium group of 57 colleges. And so that was really our focus before, prior to COVID-19. Once COVID-19 happened and our entire system had to shift to the online environment, the Chancellor's Office asked us to expand the services to all of our system. So as you can imagine, our numbers doubled. And so in that case, on July 2020, we decided to provide hours for NetTutor services to all of our system, but it was based on a formula that was calculated on the college FTEs. That means the larger your college is, the more hours you were allocated, the smaller your college is, probably the less hours you were allocated for NetTutor services. And so this had a particular fine print around if you're a consortium college or not. You can find more details about that through emails that we've been sending out, communication, and also I will provide some links to the recent memos that were provided at this time back in July and November. Okay, so on November 2020, the Chancellor's Office came back and said, hey, we have an extra 200 hours that we can provide to our system. This is a flat cap. So just a heads up, your college has access. And this started January 1st, 2021. So that means we're just 2 weeks in, I think we're still in our second week of January. So you officially have access to the 200 hours that have been provided through the Chancellor's Office at zero cost. So your college can tap into these hours and they will expire June 30th, 2021. So you have an entire semester to use these 200 hours and you have access to that. Any questions? I'm your gal for that. feel free to, I'll provide our email in just a few minutes where you can have any of these questions, any clarifications that you need, okay? And lastly, once these hours that we're saying that we're allocating at zero cost, once those hours are exhausted by your college, then the college is responsible for purchasing hours if they want to continue providing the service at their campus. So that will happen once you work with our colleagues at LSI to figure out what you want to do moving forward beyond those hours that are exhausted, okay? So, and then I just want to tap into the Pisces tool as well. So if those of you who may not be familiar, the Pisces collaboration platform is actually what the NetTutor services, the same platform where NetTutor services are provided. However, the biggest difference is that the Pisces platform is available for your on-campus, on your personal tutors. So those students or outside tutors who are working at your local tutoring center can actually use the Pisces platform to provide services to your students. So keep in mind, the CVC-OEI is still continuing to fund this Pisces platform until June 30th, 2021. And this is for the entire system. So any college can go in and begin using the Pisces platform. Funding for the Pisces platform beyond June 30th, 2021 is still pending. So I'm sorry, I don't have a real answer for you just yet. And then again, we really highly encourage your campus, if you are struggling to figure out how to fund extra hours for NetTutor, or if you're struggling in any way to just figure out how will you sustain the online tutoring services, we just really highly encourage you to consider using the Pisces platform. Again, it is free to you, and we encourage you to use that as a supplement. NetTutor as supplemental tools as they work together. So just to give you a little heads up, these are the two memos that went out that explain the information I just shared right now. We also have our CVC website. Please go onto our website. You can find all types of updates, information. Under the ecosystem services, you will find the actual information regarding any of the tools that we're helping the colleges fund or provide training or anything like that. And lastly, please use our support@cvc.edu email. I will go ahead and include these links in the chat in just a few seconds if you want to connect with us and ask any more questions. So again, beyond this slide, we'll transition now into STAR California, and any questions regarding NetTutor, allocation of hours, all of that, let's hold on to those questions. Again, I'm your gal for that. So if you want to email me at support@cvc.edu, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Okay, so thank you.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Hi, my name is Vinny Faris, and I'll be just touching on the sort of history and overview of what STAR California is. I will try to be brief because we're here to listen to our esteemed panel of tutors who are going to share their thoughts about STAR with you. But I do want to say that this is intended to be a very high overview. And of course, our hope and intent is that if anybody's interested in joining, that they follow up with after this, and Edward will talk about how to do that. And we can explain any of these slides or any other information that maybe we didn't touch on in greater detail. So basically, the general idea is that STAR is a shared technology and resource for the state of California organization. It's run by the California Community Colleges. Link Systems is sort of a private entity who partners to help run it. A lot of what happens is graciously funded by CVC and the Chancellor's Office, at least for now. But this is ultimately an organization of California Community Colleges. The idea is that each college signs up some tutors by becoming a member. Their tutors cover certain subjects, preferably ones that their college can cover that maybe other people struggle with, where you have an abundance of tutors. Some of the larger colleges put up a lot more hours, where some of the smaller colleges were really only looking for 5 to 7 a week. Link Systems will share our online tutoring training with you. So your campus is providing the main tutor training for the tutor. We're supplementing the online component of that training. And then using the Pisces platform, students are able to go on to STAR, and maybe they'll get a tutor from their campus, maybe they'll get a tutor from another campus. But the point is, it doesn't really matter. And a lot of those hours are nights and weekends, sort of outside the realm of when their tutoring center may be open. We have, 15 to 20 subjects, about 80 to 105 hours a week right now. Of course, reading, writing, arithmetic are always the basis of any tutoring center. But we offer econ, accounting, we have Italian, we have ESL. All of this is integrated through Canvas. And so what we've created, and I'll show you a screenshot of this in a minute, is sort of a tutoring hub, so that your students go to an online tutoring hub, and from there, maybe they can go to Pisces that your campus uses and talk to their online tutors from their college. If nobody's available there, maybe then they can go to STAR California, and there's extended hours, extended subjects that hopefully complements what the school's offering. And then as a last case scenario, and as a way to conserve your net tutor hours, then they can use net tutor. And the idea is that this is all on one hub, so that students don't have to figure out, am I looking for an online tutor? Am I looking for a STAR tutor? They just come to the online tutoring hub. And right now there's no cost to colleges beyond what it costs them to pay, train, and supervise their own tutors as of now. So Chris, yep. So just a little background. These conversations started in spring of 2018. It took us about a year to recruit schools, get people. Edward Pollitt has been very, very, very gracious to sort of act as the go-to person, and Metacosta has been very, very helpful in making sure that there's some basis for this to exist. We started with 9 members. We had 15 subjects, 105 hours a week. That lasted through the spring. We decided not to shut it off for the summer, even though people weren't sure whether or not they could do it over the summer. We still had 7 schools participate. We had 5 subjects in 13 hours, and students did use it. We came back with the fall with some growth. We had 12 members. You can see the numbers there. We had one of these meetings back in November where we started to recruit, and this is the second one. We already have at least 3 new members, probably 4 coming up in the spring. We're just now putting together the schedules, so we don't really know the schedules and hours, but we expect it to grow. And of course, anybody interested, there's plenty of time to join for the spring. And then here's just a breakdown of just the subjects for the fall. And as you can see, or maybe you can't see it because it's a little bit small, but writing is very, very popular. Math, algebra, geometry, those subjects tend to be the next in popularity. But then you can see all those little slivers of Italian and accounting and economics and other subjects that we offer that aren't easy for every college to offer. And I think that just to describe the 2 biggest benefits, one is we can give more depth to the subjects that you know you need tutors for, and 2, add some subjects that maybe it's not as easy or you can't get as many hours available to your students. And so this is the last slide, just to show you a little screenshot. So you can see sort of Pisces at the top. If there's a tutor available, it would be listed there. If I don't see the subject I'm looking for, I can come down to Star CA to see if my tutor is there waiting for me. And if there's not one there, then I have the option of going to NetTutor. And so that's the end. And I will be spending the rest of the time into the chat. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I will do my best to keep up. Thank you all very, very much.
Well, thank you, Vinny, and thank you, Jessica, again, and Chris for the background support as well. We really are privileged to have 3, and what I'll call them is academic support warriors. As you know, and moving to online fully in the time of the pandemic is a little bit different than just having a portion online. But these 3 warriors are on the front line working with students, and they are going to talk about their experiences. We have some leading questions that I have. What I'd like to do is at this time have John, Raquel, and Damien unmute yourself. I'd like you to introduce yourself, your name, what college you're from, and just how, and anything you want to say in terms of being present today. So little, quirk there. So go ahead and do that right now and introduce yourselves, and then who your coordinator is too. That you probably want to give props to the coordinator in terms of who's in the room today. So we'll start with John.
Hey everybody, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So my name is John Chu. I am a tutor at Skyline College. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm both a student at San Francisco State and I've been working at Skyline. So I've been seeing the transition online from both perspectives, and it's been really an absolute pleasure to be on like kind of the front lines helping students who might not be as used to working online adjust to being in an online setting.
Thank you so much. Oh, what subjects do you tutor?
Oh, I tutor writing and reading in ESL.
Thank you so much, John. Next, we'll go with Raquel.
Hi, I'm Raquel. I am a tutor from Miracosta. I'm also a student in Miracosta. I am here. I'm happy to be here. The subjects I tutor are personal income tax, Italian, and academic success coaching.
Fantastic. Thank you, Raquel. And Damien.
I'm Damien, a tutor for MSJC College. I tutor a lot of subjects, so like a lot of math, some science, chemistry, psychology. So it's a handful of a lot, but mostly math and stats. Introduction, yeah. And I do just want to say I do go by they, them pronouns. So if you do have a question for me later, please use that. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien. Appreciate your time here. If you can go ahead and keep yourself unmuted, the three of you, Raquel, Damien, and John. That way we can just kind of go back and forth, if that's okay, unless there's background noise, then I understand. I'm going to ask the first question, and just put your hand up rather than, the tools in Zoom. It's easier just to kind of put your hand up and say, okay, I'll go. I'm a visual learner, so that works well. The first question to the panel, and if you are wondering in the chat, if you have some questions, please put those in there. Vinny is monitoring that chat. The first question is, tell us one specific highlight about working in STAR, California as a tutor.
So I can start that if you want.
Yeah, just put your hand up. Just throw me a hand signal. Thank you. Yeah, John, go for it.
So mine is not really a very specific event, but it's something that happened recurringly. And like, I'm pretty sure that a lot of us experienced like working this, but there's a lot of students, a lot of the times returning students who really struggled to adjust into the online setting as we were kind of forced from being online. I mean, at my community college that I work at, there was a lot of students who I'd see in the learning center where I worked every time I was in there. They'd be sitting there working constantly all the time. And a lot of these students, and I know every community college has these students, and one of like the biggest highlights for working with STAR was being able to help these students kind of at least somewhat help them adjust to online settings and introducing them to a lot of the different resources that I've kind of taken for granted as someone who's grown up with and become very used to this setting. A lot of people weren't, and it was probably my biggest thing was being able to work with these students online, teach them a lot of tricks that help navigating the online setting a lot easier, while also introducing them to a lot of resources that I've picked up during my time tutoring.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Damien or Raquel, who'd like to go next? Yeah, go ahead, Damien.
So one of my highlights actually goes back, like it started last semester, but I remember when I first started it, it was slower than it was now. So I kind of had this issue, is like, oh, I came to tutor to help people, and I'm kind of just like not helping a lot of people right now. But later, I got a tutor come in, and it's a like older student. She's a mother. And when she finally came in, she's like, oh my gosh, like I didn't think anyone would be here at 9 p.m. like on a weekday. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm like, okay, like this is why I did this, so we can help people outside of our normal hours. And like being able to do that has been part of the best part of STAR California for me.
Fantastic. That's a great story. Both those stories. Kelly, what do you have to add? Thank you, Damien.
I'm going to piggyback kind of what Damien said. I am a single mom myself, so I put myself available on weekends when I am free, and that's when usually single moms are available too. And I know that it was a good thing. Like, it was available to more than just the students that go to my school. You know, it's not just by appointment. I'm available whenever they want to drop in. I'm there. It's good. It's nice to see students come in and they're like, oh, you're like actually here. I don't have to like put in a chat request or anything. You're like here live, ready to help me and talk to me and walk through this. And that's one of the things I find rewarding.
Thank you for sharing, and you're very resilient as a single mom. I know you personally, so thank you for being here too. The next question is, and again, you don't all have to answer every question, but I'm going to give you that opportunity. So describe the process steps you use to tutor from a different community college than your own. So that isn't always clear because people just drop in and want to get to the work possible. But a lot of times you find out, oh, they're from, they're from Palomar College, which is right down the street, or they're from this other place in the state. So what is that like? What's your process for a student that is not from your college? Raquel, go for it.
Well, if it's from a college that I have never heard from, I would actually inquire about it. And I'm kind of curious, so where is that at, And then maybe ask about their classes, their professors, how it is. So I get a feel of what the student is dealing with, like if they're having any difficulties. Being a coach, that's my first instinct, is asking them like probing questions, trying to figure out what it is that's going on beyond just, and then getting to the point. It's easier to do on video than a chat. If the student doesn't want to be on the video, then a chat is the process a little different, but basically I'll still inquire. And then once they get comfortable, they're like, oh, well, she's from a different college, but like she can relate, then I feel they're more willing to receive help too. I'm just trying to make them feel comfortable.
Thank you. Either John or Damon, if you want to address that at all. If not, that's. Yeah, John, go for it.
So I'm gonna approach this specifically from like my domain, which is like reading and writing. So the majority of people who came to get tutoring with me had an essay. They had an essay due, they had to work on some form of presentation. It was almost entirely writing focused. So, I mean, the first thing I would do is ask them what college they were from. If it was the college I was from, I know a lot of the professors at my college, so I know a lot of the work they do. But I'd ask them what college they were from, and if I didn't know, I'd say, do you have the prompt for the essay? And then if the student was a little confused about what a prompt was or anything along those lines, I had like a little instructional document that I would copy and paste into the chat that kind of explained where you can generally find a prompt in Canvas, like what does it look like, and generally they'd copy and paste it into the chat. And most of the students that I work with, just to preface here, I worked with over chat. Not really anybody wanted to use voice. I mean, I tended to have later times, so it might have just been because of the time at night that I was tutoring most of the time. But the other big thing that I did, and this is probably the most important thing, is I kind of set the boundaries and kind of like the ground rules of like what kind of things I can tutor, what kind of things I can't. Because I know a lot of different schools have a lot of different like a lot of different kind of rules about how to approach tutoring writing, especially when it comes to like plagiarism and stuff like that. And for an example, the college that I work at, we have a very hard and fast rule of no fixing grammar. We can tutor the concepts, we can explain the ideas, but we can't sit down and be an editor. So I'd be very kind of clear about, hey, these are kind of the rules that I operate on in here, set the boundaries, and then we'd kind of just get to work, because once you have the prompt and the kind of the ground rules in the book, you can actually get to work on kind of seeing what the student needs help with and working with them.
Appreciate the process. The next question will be a follow-up. Damon, did you want to add at all to this question? You're good?
No, I think they answered.
Okay, awesome. The next question is, what training have you had since you started in your center as a tutor, right? When you were on ground, perhaps, or maybe online, and then what kind of training for Star California specifically? So, kind of the duality of the training that you've received. What is that like? I mean, what have you had? Yeah, Damien.
So initially when we started, we had to do our like initial training with the college, which tells us everything. And then as we go along, like MSJC does these monthly trainings. So I've gone to a lot of those. And then when I eventually got on to Star California, it was my first time tutoring online. So I was like, whoa, what's going on? But the Star California like modules we had to go through were actually really helpful. And like it's like the same thing as in person, but different. Like the only thing that really changes is how you interact and like being able to reference stuff like immediately, like, oh hey, here's this website I use that like tutors like that says math really well, like does the math stuff really well, so you can go here as well on the off chance we're out or there's no one on, and be able to link these resources was actually a real benefit. And I've used that, and Star California has had some recommendations. Actually, no, it was MSJC had some recommendations to do that as well. So yeah, it's a lot of this transition.
Damien, I have a follow-up real quick.
Yes.
In terms of the training at MS, I always get the acronym messed up. Mount San Jacinto, right?
Yes. MSJC.
Okay. Yeah, you say it too quickly, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Are you a CRLA? Oh, did he leave? Oh, are you a CRLA training program?
I believe so.
Okay.
My advisor Ted would be able to answer that better.
Okay. So you have level 1, level 2, that kind of thing.
Yes, we
Yes,
are.
that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ted. And then how many years have you been at your college tutoring?
2.5, I think. It's 2 or 2.5.
So you're one of the more experienced tutors, it seems like, right?
Yeah, I've been there for a while.
Okay, thanks so much. Who else would like to address that question again? What has your training been at your own center? And go ahead, John.
So I've worked at Skyline in a few different like academic support roles. I started out as a supplemental instruction leader for anybody who's familiar with that program. And I kind of moved directly into tutoring and like doing the front desk work there. But I've been with the Learning Center for about 5 years now, and I've been tutoring for about 3.5. I had, previous to moving online, I was one of the first people to start doing like online tutoring. And I did some embedded online tutoring with a couple online professors. And the cool thing about our program is that we do consecutive like kind of professional development training. So there's constant trainings going on that detail a lot of the different situations and ideas you might come across as you are tutoring students. What happens when a student is very adamant that they want their way, stuff along those lines. And we have a lot of kind of recurring trainings that focus along those lines. But I've been working with Skyline for about 5 years now in various different academic roles. And then Damien talked about it. But yeah, they trained us through like how to use the online settings, and it was pretty good, and it helped a lot with like using the platform.
Great, thank you, John. Raquel, you had your hand up. Do you want to add to that?
Yes, we also have extensive training at Maricosta. Also being an academic success coach, I had training doing that. We are trained to ask probing questions, how to ask them, how to read someone's learning style, even in an online environment. We've done scenarios training. I've actually helped create some training videos with scenarios. We've discussed the ethics of training, of tutoring, and how to tutor online. I've actually been a STAR California tutor. This is my third
Third
semester.
Yeah.
Yeah, third semester at
Yes.
STAR California. The Pisces training, how to use the platform, the whiteboard chat video, all of it, sharing documents, how to copy and paste. I mean, the platform itself is very easy to use. It's pretty straightforward. You just click away and figure it out. It's not confusing at all. But that's pretty much it. I mean, we have training at least at the beginning of every semester, and multiple trainings or multiple
Awesome.
things. So yeah.
Thank you, Raquel. And how long have you been tutoring?
I've been at Maricosta for almost 2 years now.
Thank you. So as you can see, we have experienced tutors who are in STAR, and that's a little plug, yes, a shameless plug. And the last $1 million question is this: what would you tell a college that has not signed up yet for STAR California? What's your guidance? What's your guidance to those who are here today, who are just checking it out, who are curious how this works, besides the technical aspects, but what's your guidance for us? Go ahead, Raquel.
Well, it allows students to have more tutors available to them beyond the hours that are available to them from the school. There's evening hours, weekend hours. I mean, evening, weekend hours, both combined. Um, I'm one of the Saturday shifts. And also it's an opportunity for us tutors to gain more experience beyond what is available to us from, the appointments that we can get from the school. And
Awesome.
that's it.
Thank you, Raquel. John, Damien, anything else regarding any guidance? Yes, Damien, go for it.
I mean, if you got the ability to hire the tutors to aid in it, you get a bunch of extra hours back. And like Raquel said, a lot of those are outside your normal LRC functions. So it's beneficial to students as well. In addition, oftentimes tutors, I know most of the professors, how they teach at my college, right? So a lot of them are similar, a lot of them are different, but at different colleges that changes. So sometimes seeing a different tutor can bring that new perspective to students as well, which also helps. So that helps at all. That's what I would say. It's beneficial in multiple different ways. Sorry.
That's a great point. Thank you so much. Another perspective from another college, but same subject, right? So, John, you want to close this question out?
Sure. I think the biggest thing is that outside, and both of the other panelists here have talked a lot about kind of the benefits it has that students get to access outside normal tutoring hours. And I mean, I can also speak to that with the fact that we operate on a 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. basis, and I tended to work, 8 a.m. to sometimes 6 p.m. depending on the day, stuff along those lines. And I tended to work night shifts. So I had a lot of people come in who are like, oh my God, there's finally a tutor that I can talk to. I just got off work. And so I'm not going to expand on that, but I think one of the other big benefits is that what's cool is that if you take part in this program, when we do return to in-person work, being in a student, you'll have tutors who are very experienced in working online. And that can be a really beneficial resource in the future in case there's programs for online tutoring and stuff along those lines. So it adds another area of expertise that gets kind of developed within the roster of tutors that exist. And I mean, I know that when I started doing STAR, it really helped me at first kind of think about how do I approach online. And a lot of my coworkers, because I was doing this right before we moved online, I had a lot of my coworkers when we moved online coming to me saying, what do we do? What should we do? What can I do? And having that resource was really beneficial because I was able to help a lot of my coworkers with just with like navigating an online setting, which luckily I had the chance to be both trained in and go through a dedicated training in, and had the choice and had the ability of just experiencing it. So I think that's like another added benefit, is that you get that layer of experience within your tutoring team.
That's awesome. What I've heard from all of you is availability is key, right? Off hours, different perspectives in terms of other campuses, and then what you just said, kind of an in-house trainer in terms of a tutor being a peer tutor, being kind of an in-house trainer for other tutors at your own college. Really appreciate you expanding on these questions. If there's a burning question in the chat that you want to ask, we have about a minute left for the panel. Maybe the bonus question, I'll say. And then we could put that out there. If not, please affirm our tutors in the chat as well. Emojis are fine. Whatever you want to, these again are our frontline essential tutors who are really doing the work as we continue providing the state with excellent services. So is there another question, or are we ready to move on?
I just wanted to know, so our college has to be registered through STAR in order to use it?
I'm going to get into the technical pieces.
Okay.
If you have a question for the panel specifically, please put it in the chat and then we'll ask it. But if not, we're going to move on, and then I'll go over that, and I will how to join will be part of our panel as well, or I mean part of our slideshow.
Hey, Edward, this is Chris.
Yes.
And I first want to say to Raquel, Damian, and John, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I know a lot of you by name, but this is the first time I've gotten to see your faces and talk about what you've been doing with STAR California, and we really just admire your dedication to your students. That's really the heart of what we do. I always get asked about the differences between online tutoring and tutoring face-to-face. And I thought maybe we could throw out one more question since we have a few minutes, about either how you recognize that a student is paying attention. If they're not paying attention, how do you get them to re-engage? Or how do you recognize that they're not getting it, and how do you help them get like sort of unstuck? So I'll defer to anybody who wants to take a stab at that.
We got Raquel who wants to address that, and John, go for it.
I'll answer part A. The easiest way for me to figure out if someone is getting it or not getting it is for them to tell me back what I just explained. So it's literally, could you explain it to me so that we can see if we're both on the same page, or just something like that. And if they don't seem to get it, it's to just keep repeating it over and over, because I mean, maybe change how I'm explaining whatever the issue is, but it is still just keep going and be patient.
Thank you, Raquel. John, you had your hand up?
Yeah, a little, if I can add on to A there, I mean, I agree with everything Raquel said there. Another thing that I found very useful, specifically in the realm of, and I've mentioned this before, like English, working on essays. So there's a lot of emphasis on like students coming with, I don't understand my thesis statement. What is a thesis statement? So I think the framework of, and this is just kind of adopting how I would work in person with these students, of bringing in essentially task-centric stuff of, rather than, are you able to tell me what a thesis statement is, saying, why don't you explain to me what your thesis statement is? And essentially, rather than making the request for them to do it, you say, why don't you do this? And if they struggle, or if they don't get it, then you move into a case of, all right, so here's what this is. Here's a demonstration of it. Now, why don't we apply this in your own essay? Here's a sample topic sentence that I've written. Why don't we debrief how it works? And then why don't you try to apply that now that I've explained it? And then we have, using the whiteboard feature, I'd have a kind of a visual model of what a topic sentence looks like. So I think one of the big ones is kind of just patience is a big one. And I found that a lot of the times when students have like duck away from the computer for like 2 minutes, they almost come back saying, I'm sorry, my kid decided to run into a shelf or something, that it's a real life scenario that came in. And most of the time, the people who are logging in at 7:30, 8 o'clock on a weekday evening after work are there because they want help. And I think that's the really big thing right here, is just like, having the compassion that, I mean, just like we're at home working and we have a lot of our own stuff, a lot of the students do too. So having the compassion there and kind of just keeping it task-centric, where they're constantly working, and also promoting the independence rather than doing it for them. You say, hey, why don't you do this? And I'll act as a guide, I'll act as a helping hand to kind of guide you along the process.
Awesome. Damien, you're good, or did you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just say one other thing, because if I notice they aren't like paying attention or seem like they're not paying attention, generally like I tutor late, like, so they come in after a full day of work or a full day of like studying, and it's been hours, and I'll see sometimes that they're just not like responding in a way that like seems like they're paying attention. I'll just ask them like, hey, how long have you been doing this? Or like, have you had a break today? And oftentimes they'll answer no. And I'm like, do you want like a 5-minute break? And then if no one's in my queue, I'll just tell them, why don't you take a 5-minute break, come right on back. And then when they do, they're usually like more focused. And other times it's just like, oh, sorry, like John said, something came up. Yeah, I'm here. Like, sorry, something just like happened in real life. So.
That's awesome. Y'all are great tutors, I can tell just by your responses. Really happy you joined us. The humanistic and holistic tutoring process lives, and this is what we get statewide. So appreciate your participation today. Let's move on back to the slides and tell you a little bit about the investment that STAR California takes and what you get out of it. So let's see. Here we go. So for instance, if you put in a tutor for 3 hours a week, which is pretty minimal, that you know, if let's say it's my campus, I put in one tutor who's trained already, who's experienced, and I put him into STAR California. That's 32 weeks, 3 hours, $15 an hour. That cost me $1,400, right? For 3 hours. On the return side for STAR California, it amounts to 185 hours a week across the Pisces platform, across all STAR California participants. And it's an $88,000 return. I don't know where you get that in society, but that's pretty good, I would say. Next slide. So 96 hours again for that 3 hours a week, right? At $1,400 a semester. And here you get 5,900 hours in return. That's a 6,000% increase in terms of your return on investment. If I was in real estate, I'd be rich. But here we go. How do you join? We ask for a participating institution agreement, a PIA, that you and either your dean signs it or you can sign it, and then you have an alternate person that's also signing it. You provide the tutor's subjects and their schedule in STAR California that they can perform. You put them through the tutor training for STAR California. And then once all that is said and done, you enable the STAR California via your NetTutor link that you already have as a NetTutor member, if you are, in your learning management system, whether that be Canvas or something else. Questions, if you have questions for Jessica, this is the time to ask in terms of the OEI, CVC. We still have about 10 minutes, or let's say 5.5 minutes. If you have any questions, I'd like you to put it in the chat. If you all start talking at once, that will be a disaster. You can follow up with me at www.starcalifornia.org is the website. And my specific email is epollard@star-california.org. Jessica has a question. Is apportionment collected for any of those sessions? That's always been a topic of without clarity. What I'll say is we had a webinar on apportionment done by ACLA, the Association for Colleges and Learning Assistants. And we can put that, we can follow up with that in the link. It depends on who you put in the tutoring. You have to match the apportionment with, and it's also interpreted, you have to match the apportionment with your tutor working with your students in STAR California. We have reports that are semester and that we run through STAR California that we get out to the coordinators who are members. And then they can match that up and see if there's if my tutor, such as Raquel, worked with a Miracosta College student. And so you kind of decipher that from the data, and then it's up to your college to see if that's apportionment eligible. Because again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of apportionment. What happens with that, it's always interpreted. And so depending on your dean, your administrator, your VP, how do you count apportionment on your campus? How does the state? It's always kind of nebulous. But it is possible to get apportionment. It just depends on what you do with the data. Some folks don't count STAR California as part of their apportionment because they have a robust online frame for their campus outside of STAR California. Like I know Ted Blake from Mount San Jacinto. I don't know if you want to chime in here and how you do your STAR California. Go for it, Ted.
Sure, Edward. Yeah, sure thing. We don't currently collect the apportionment for STAR California. So we're leveraging it to be those other hours when we're kind of off the clock as the supervisors at my college. So we didn't want to take on the apportionment piece for STAR California. It just gives our students that, as Damien was talking about, those like into the evening, although we do have a lot of students, so we may look at that in the next semester. I'm currently kind of speaking to my dean about it, but we chose not to, and it's going really well.
Thank you so much, Ted. Here's the schedule. I think you're clicking on the schedule. Is that right, Chris? There you go. So this is an example of the schedule in the fall. And as you can see, there's a lot of evening. There's some, I believe there's mostly evening and weekends, Saturday. And I say weekends, really 6 out of the 7 days a week. You have tutoring. There's some prime time here, 11 to 2, which is prime time in our centers. So that might overlap a little bit with our current schedules that we have in our centers. But really for our program, my program at Miracosta College, we don't offer tutoring past 7, basically. And so everything you see past 7 p.m., and we don't start until 9 a.m. So anything before 9 a.m. Is extra. And so we don't, our budget doesn't provide that. But I would say that with STAR California, our students have access, and they have access on the weekend, they have access in the evening, and it takes 3 hours of our tutoring. Well, we put in about 9 hours, actually. We're generous to STAR California. There's a question here in the chat. To clarify, there are 3 hours of algebra tutoring available from STAR California on Mondays 2 to 5. That same time slot has a tutor available for Spanish. Edward counts that as 6 hours of tutoring availability. Different subjects, correct. And I have 2 tutors in STAR California doing about, I want to say about 6 hours each. So 12, I put in 12 hours for my campus. But what our students get back is tenfold. Any questions? Jessica, did you have anything else? We're at 11:52. We have about 5 minutes. Anything you want to say about CVC-OEI, anything about STAR California that you have questions on?
Yeah, no, not at all. I just wanted to remind everyone that this webinar was recorded. And so we will provide you the link to visit the recording of the webinar and any other resources. We will follow up with an email for everyone who attended, and then feel free to share this information with other colleagues at your campus.
Thank you, Jessica. Again, thank you for hosting this webinar. There is a question, are the Zoom links provided by STAR? It's not a Zoom link, it's actually runs through the Pisces platform. And so the Pisces platform in STAR California is what students or tutors use and students enter into. Maybe, Chris, can you go back to the PowerPoint slide that has the picture of the landing page? Perhaps that might be good to show. Yes, Ruth, that's correct. It's the through NetTutor. Yeah, this landing page here. And so this landing page is set up where Pisces is used for some online tutoring for, let's say my tutors are in Pisces and it's my tutors for my students on my campus. So we might use Pisces for that purpose. Then you have the STAR California tile there right below it. And that is, of course, the consortium, where you get a tutor based on that schedule you saw earlier. And let's say it's beyond the hours of, let's say, 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., whatever the STAR California schedule is, then NetTutor is the next default because they're 24/7. When do they start in terms of, let's take a look at what's in the chat here. When do STAR sessions start and end for spring 2021? They're scheduled to start, I'm going to say next week as schedules come in. I know that tutors are just coming back. And as we get schedules, we'll populate a new schedule. We're hoping that we can do that by next week, but it really depends on the members and the coordinators on what they give us. The question from an audience member that says, how do you deconflict STAR California in your own on-campus tutoring programs if you are open at the same time? Doesn't this create competition? It could. You might have the first default be, I want my Pisces that I'm using to have our tutors tutor our students online, right? And so STAR California is just a backup. What if your tutor is sick and they can't tutor? Then you have STAR California as a backup. So it might create competition if you look at it that way. However, I would say it's really kind of a safety net so that tutoring still happens during those hours. Does it count? And it doesn't count against, Ruth put in a question there, and it's been answered by Vinny. Does it count against the 200 hours by CVC-OEI for the net tutor hours? No, it's separate from that. Does STAR do any asynchronous tutoring? At this point, we do not. Is that correct, Chris?
Right, not yet. There are options to do asynchronous tutoring with Pisces. So if you wanted your own campus tutors to provide asynchronous tutoring, they could. Just like there are options to create appointments on Pisces for your campus tutors, but STAR does not take appointments yet. But that would be something that we decide on as we grow, how different colleges want to serve the needs of their students. So that might be something that we add in the future to STAR CA.
All right, with that, I think we're going to close up shop. Again, we want to thank everyone for coming. If you have any words of wisdom to our tutor panel, please put it in the chat. Emojis are fine as well. Again, we thank our tutor panel and everyone that has joined us today. Special thanks to CVC-OEI. We have a quick poll. Are you interested in joining STAR California? Do you need additional info before joining? How informative was this webinar? Please fill that out. It will populate. And as you take that poll and we close up shop, again, thank you much for your participation and your commitment. Join our consortium, take a look, and
And Edward, just a reminder to everybody that as soon as the webinar is processed and CVC gets a chance to do whatever captioning magic they do, right, Jessica, this will be posted on the CVC website. So you're all free to go back, and in case you were really wowed by my few slides and you wanted to watch them again, it'll be available online to you. And if you wanted to share it with any of your colleagues, also available to share.